So, another session of Animal Talk.
Welcome.
Chris and I, as always,
Yep.
we're the Veggie MSPCA team.
we will see about in the future about mixing it up a little bit. Maybe we can have some guests.
Yes.
Yeah?
We need to. They start getting bored of my face, so.
And mine.
So, but today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic because Chris is basically going to be talk about parenting,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And one thing obviously, which I am a father of three. You do not have any training beforehand, and any need of certification, any need of qualifications, any need of passing any exams or benchmark is to be a parent.
And it's like it's initiation by fire, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes it's a very initiation
Thrown
by
in
fire.
the deep end.
Sometimes it's by mistake or by planning, and sometimes you can be old, young, or whatever. So, but
Yeah.
we have MSPCA is now twinning with Parentcraft.
Yes. Parentcraft services at Mater Dei. I know probably the people watching us are wondering what do animals have to do with parenting. Okay. I know the link is a bit far-fetched, but hear me out. We get a lot of people at the rehoming center contacting us to help rehome their pet because they're gonna have a baby or they've had a baby and they're not coping, or they wonder, is it safe from a disease point of view or from an injury point of view. And we at the MSPCA, we always believed and still believe and will continue believing that education is the key to preventing most problems. And we understand that the new parents have this concern because they want to look after their children, they want to do the best they can for their children, and that's the responsible thing to do. However,
And I understand from a parent's perspective. Imagine it is just the couple and the dog. So the first thing which would come to mind is the dog going to be jealous now that the attention is going to move from
Exactly.
it to the baby?
Exactly.
What is going to happen then? Are there going to be conflict? And maybe when the baby starts to walk and it decides to, are they going to fight? Or if a baby, kids,
Yeah.
sometimes when babies hold something, they hold it a bit too
Exactly.
fiercely.
And also when the kids start walking, they're not very stable on their legs if you have a really rough and clumsy boxer. Your kid's
What happens?
Your kid's gonna.
Or if your kid is in the walker
suit.
and suddenly you have a little pug or something and
and you can step over it
and the baby is running after this. So
Yeah.
how does all this fit into place?
Okay, so the three main topics, then I would divide them into disease prevention, injury prevention, and preparing your pet for when you bring the baby home. So I'm gonna tackle preparing first because you've mentioned most of that. The concern is that the animal is not gonna adjust. Okay, we'll wait for that woman to stop shouting.
No,
Yes?
it's okay. We have a bus stop next to us, obviously, in Monster Constitution Street. So sometimes we hear a bit of the Maltese character coming in.
Plenty of gossip too. So
Remember, do please come to our shop. We have a shop in Monster, we have a shop in Sliema, and there's a shop in Nasha, a warehouse in Nasha, where you can find excellent bargains, and you are helping MSPCA in doing what Chris is doing, basically.
yes, and rehoming animals. So when you're taking the baby home, obviously your routine is going to change. Okay, so you're gonna need to reserve more time to look after the baby, and some of that time is probably gonna eat away at the time you used to spend with your pet. But the good news here is that in most cases you have 9 months to prepare your pet for the arrival of the baby. So if you start changing the routine slowly, and I'd say, for example, if you know that you're going to end up here, okay, and you are here, you don't jump that way.
You move gradually.
You move gradually.
Which is how one should.
So if you start gradually reducing the time and changing the schedule during which you walk your pet, how much time you spend with for this sudden, it's got so it won't be sudden. The reduction in the quality.
So you don't go from overkill,
Exactly.
go to hospital, have the baby, and then neglect the dog, but you make it as a process.
Precisely, and if we start preparing early enough, then we can overlap the time with the baby and with the dog, or cat, dog more specifically, because one thing dogs really don't adjust well to unless they're prepared to it is walking alongside the pushchair.
Okay.
Or a pram. So if you can get the pram in advance, most people do. You don't just suddenly realize that you need a pram when the baby's born.
Well, pregnancy normally takes 9 months, I believe.
Yes,
so
exactly. So you've got some time to do this. It's okay, people will look at you funny if you do certain things. Sometimes you might want to start walking your dog next to an empty pram. Okay, you might get some funny looks if you put a fake baby in there, but I'm sure people will understand that is the responsible thing to do, and actually you might even get some admiration from some people, because it's not many people don't commit to this. Another thing that you mentioned is the baby walker. If you can have those items lying around, moving around the house
already,
so the dog gets used to them, then by the time that the baby needs to use them, the dog will see, okay, that's fine, that's normal,
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a trauma for the animal or for the humans, because looking after a baby is a time-intensive initiative. Yes, we understand that, and if we can all adjust to it, it should go.
So I also wanted to link a bit to what we said in the 5 freedoms, and you mentioned how much a dog is an animal which likes something above its head, safety. Probably, especially thinking around with the walker, etc., probably there is a bigger need to create some safe areas for the dog.
Indeed, yes.
When you have a baby coming in, so that if a walker can't pass through that, so the dog has suddenly found its
safe place.
And
if it's chosen and if it's found its safe place, I'd say go with it, because if your animal chooses it, it's probably going to be better than the place you choose. So I'd say let them find their own coping ways. But something you mentioned actually reminds me about when you bring the baby home. Okay, so that is your most important moment. You might have a dog that's completely freaked out and hides under the chair. That's fine. Leave him.
They will adjust.
They will adjust. If you give them the space to adjust, most of them do it. But on the other side of the spectrum, you might get the dog that wants to be in the pram with the dog, with the baby. I wouldn't say you should allow that, because it sets a potentially dangerous precedent, because you do not want your dog to think that the baby is his, or that he can do whatever he wants around the baby, because that can be a safety issue.
Yes.
So I would say
the boundaries should remain.
The boundaries should remain. You don't need to punish your dog. You just need to make sure that they understand that staying on the floor, being calm around the baby, is going to be rewarded and is what we want. If they get too excited, then we can give them a timeout, and the timeout isn't a punishment. It's an opportunity for the dog to calm down, reassess the situation, and think of a different way to approach it. Okay? So that's more on the practical side of how to go
many
about
are
things.
afraid, pet, baby, health issues, diseases. What's the situation there?
Okay, with diseases, I've definitely something to think about, because there's a few diseases that animals can get that can give to us. So again, education is key, because most of these diseases are preventable, and your hygiene practices will go a long way also in preventing the animal getting them, and therefore also the child. If the pet has them already, again, hygiene practices are helpful in preventing the animal from passing it on to us. And something to keep in mind again with these zoonotic diseases, that's what we call diseases that can affect both humans and animals. That you don't, the animals are not the only place you can get them. Since they are zoonotic, other people can also have them, so they can pass them on to you. So again, education of what is zoonotic is important.
And basically how to prevent.
Yes.
So one would suggest to go to the vet, one would suggest to
That's
go to...
the first thing I would say you should do when you learn that you're going to have a baby. You take your pet to the vet, get them tested, get them vaccinated if you haven't already. Make sure that you're using the right products for deworming, defleeing and other parasites. And that is already going to tell you whether your animal has something that could potentially pass on to your children or to you. But again, ongoing hygiene is important. Something that I don't see enough people doing is leaving their shoes at the door. Because
we don't have a custom in the island for that, like abroad.
You can bring in so many diseases on your shoes, and if you're walking around in the house, you're going to put them on the carpet, and if then you walk around in your socks and you put your feet on the couch, you're going to bring them on the couch or potentially on the bed.
So therefore you can't blame the dog or the cat. It's probably
exactly.
It's what you brought in from outside.
There's so many more diseases that you can bring in that way than your dog can bring in. So it's important that you.
So to sum up,
yes,
we said basically to create a plan, to obviously go to the vet, and to try to orientate the dog as much as possible beforehand. Now, with regards to other pets like cats, etc., are they the same issues or?
Cats and dogs have similar issues. We're going to be covering these topics during Parentcraft services lessons that we're going to be doing as of this week with Mater Day. Other pets, yes. For example, if you think about reptiles, one of the biggest issues is salmonella, because they can be carriers. They don't show any symptoms, and it's not 100%, but you can almost bet your money that if you have a reptile, it's probably got salmonella in its environment. But also going back on cats and dogs, there is a popular trend nowadays of feeding a raw diet.
Yeah.
A raw diet increases
more
the
chances
risk
of salmonella.
And not just salmonella, there's other like Campylobacter, once the animal eats that food, and then they groom themselves, it's going to be on their fur, it's going to be on their bedding. I wouldn't suggest that if you have pets and children in the same house. I definitely would suggest against going with a raw diet, because there are specific and very tedious ways to reduce that contamination.
Chris, it's a well done that MSPCA is doing this in collaboration with Parentcraft and at Mater Day. But is it only open to upcoming parents who can join? How can people join?
Well, as far as I know, Parentcraft services are only available to expecting families, and that includes their extended families. But we hope to be able this year to start providing some public education workshops and seminars that will probably include this topic.
Very good.
The third topic on that list, in fact, that we want to tackle through Parentcraft services is how to teach kids to interact with pets and how to know the body language of your pets to intervene before there are accidents. Because
we can do a bit of a program as well in the near future about that as well.
Just to give you a teaser, animals have their own way of communicating, and they usually tell you way in advance that they're uncomfortable with the situation. So it definitely is preventable. It's just that most people don't
read the
know
cues,
what to look for. And that's what we hope to deliver during these lectures, that parents now should have enough knowledge to say, all right, my dog is lifting his paw. He's saying, I'm not comfortable with this. Either I'm going to remove the child or the dog, or
they're going
to.
Okay, interesting times. We'll enter into this maybe later on in the year. I remind everybody one way you can also help MSPCA is obviously if you're interested in adopting a pet, go over to the MSPCA home in Floriana. There are a number of pets, both dogs and cats, which are looking for a home. There are, most of the cases, adult dogs, so you basically know the character, and they will fit exactly with the family you are trying to
Again,
set up.
matchmaking, isn't it?
Matchmaking. You have seen throughout the program a number of animals that are in the shelter, and also throughout the program you have seen some of the shots of the shops, of the MSPCA charity shops, where you can go and buy a number of products for at bargain prices, and at the same time support the work that Chris and other people at MSPCA are doing. For now, from Darrell and from Chris,
Thank you.
cheers.
And see you.